What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with another video. And I thought we'd take a look at one of my recent acquisitions in a little bit more detail and what I've learned about it. There's a great book about Spanish PvP figures that I do not have yet by Javier Ruy Lopez. And it goes into great detail about the different PvP and Poch, or Poch, or however you pronounce it, figures that came out in the early to mid, really the early 1980s. And one of those figures, as you saw in one of my recent unboxings, is this Spanish Poch. I'm going to say Poch for all future videos, okay? But let's just settle it right now, okay? I'm going with Poch. Spanish Poch Jawa. And what's interesting about this Jawa, and this one on your right, this is obviously the Vinyl Cape Jawa, and then I've got a couple of other variants behind it. But what's interesting about this Spanish Poch Jawa is that it's got the black bandolier around his chest area, which is probably why UKG, cased it this way with the cape behind it, rather than the standard AFA style. But it's a very interesting figure. It's a very, very difficult figure to find in mint condition, and I've seen a few for sale loose over the last maybe year or two, and I had it in the back of my mind that I always wanted to get one, but just nothing ever came up. And as you guys know, a buddy of mine decided to sell off the vast majority, if not everything, in his collection. So I did a big bulk purchase from him, as you guys saw in my unboxing. And this is one of those figures, and it's a very interesting figure. And what I've learned a little bit about them just going through Rebel Scum and Imperial Gunnery online. A lot of great resources out there, but this figure has a number of differences versus the standard Hong Kong figures. As we've talked about in some of my other videos, the early Spanish Poch figures made in Spain were basically, they had parts imported from Hong Kong, for the most part, that they then assembled and painted, in Spain. And so that's why they're pretty popular, because they are technically a Spanish figure, even though they're using Hong Kong parts. But there's a couple of interesting variation or notes about this figure that I thought I'd share with you. That no one really knows why. But one of the very first things, obviously, is the color of these bandoliers. But the other interesting thing is that I took a look at, the other ones are obviously covered with their cloth cape, so you can't really look at the figure, the actual mold of the figure itself with any of these. But with this Vinyl Cape Jawa, we got a little bit of a peek there, because the Vinyl Cape still allows you to see some of the bandolier. And the interesting thing is that beyond the color difference, which, let me get up close here so you can take a look at it. I'm going to try and get my camera to zoom properly, though. If you look at the bandoliers themselves, first on the left, you got the Vinyl Cape Jawa, and if you look at the, I'm going to put this one down for a second, but if you look right in here, the bandolier pouch, it's a very straight line going across the top on a couple of sections with lines going down. I guess it's supposed to simulate, ammunition or whatever they're keeping in pouches. So take note of this area right here, though, where it's just a straight line. If you look at the Spanish Poch, it's different, though. It's got a very, let's see if I can get it to focus again, sorry. It's got some very noticeable differences to how it was molded. And I looked online, and apparently this bandolier mold is slightly different than the Hong Kong one that you see here. So, it's very subtle, but there is a notable difference. So, just some of the lines are stronger. There's a line right in here that's not present on the Hong Kongs, apparently, and no one can figure out why, because it's technically they're Hong Kong parts. And the other thing I wanted to show you is just the color difference. They call it black bandolier, but it's really not black. It's really still just a darker brown color. If you look at that one there versus this one here. So, the Vinyl Cape Jawa is just more of a muted black, muted brown, excuse me. and then this one is a darker, very deep brown. They call it black, but it is more of just a muted brown color. There are quite a bit of differences with these with the color of these Spanish Pochs. I've seen ones that are much darker, almost black, but this one is more of a deep dark brown. The other notable difference between these and the standard Hong Kongs is that you have this groove in the leg that apparently is not present for the Hong Kong figures, this groove in the right leg. So you can see that there. Also, you can't really see it very effectively because of the way this is cased, but if you look between his legs there in the crotch area, the weld mark is another telltale sign that it's a Spanish Poch figure. Spanish Poch figures are known for having really, really poor sonic welding. The sonic welding process is what holds these figures together. I've got a number of non-sonic welds in my collection, as you guys have seen, but the Spanish Poch figures have really poor welds around that crotch area and even around the torso, holding the legs and the arms and the head to the rest of the figure. The head obviously is not with the Jawa, but with other standard Star Wars figures, obviously it holds the head in. But Spanish PBP figures and Poch figures, they're just known for falling apart in your hand over time because those welds were so poorly done. So that's another difference. So you have a slight difference in the mold of the bandolier. You have this kind of heavier groove that's in the right leg, and then the third major molding difference, or not molding difference, but paint difference, is with the eyes. I don't know if it's molding or the eyes, but look how different the eyes are. This is the Hong Kong Vinyl Cape Jawa, and then look how small the eyes are with the Poch. So very noticeable difference. The other major difference is I'm going to try and catch it in the light there. I don't know if you can see, but you see how deep the grooves are in his face. The paint application process apparently for the face area was a lot lighter. It wasn't a heavier, thicker paint, so you can really see all the grooves in his face. Versus if you look at the Vinyl Cape Jawa, it's a much less noticeable. See how much smoother the face is. I hope that's coming through. I'm using the light here to try and show that to you. But look how faint the face mold, all the little details below the eyes, how faint that is, versus how rigid and noticeable they are with the Spanish Poch. Hopefully that's, yeah, see, look at that. Look how noticeable it is. So that's another major difference. I'm not a genius on this. This is all stuff I've just learned fairly recently. So you got the eye difference, you got the paint application difference on the face that allows for more detailed grooves. You have a slight molding difference in the bandolier, obviously the bandolier color, and then you have the groove and the weld marks on the leg and in the crotch area. So those are all the major differences. I'm sure there's other slight ones. They mentioned the glossy paint on the hands is slightly different, but those are the major differences between the Poch figure and some of your standard Hong Kong figures. But if you look at even all of these other Hong Kong Jawas and their eyes vary anywhere from kind of almond shape to very circular, like you see here, very large and circular, like with the Vinyl Cape Jawa, versus the Poch figure, which is just really, really teeny tiny eyes. So a much different eye size than any of these Hong Kong figures. So anyway, I just thought that was an interesting kind of footnote there. But these Spanish Poch figures are very, very desirable, and you just don't see them very often. And you can see his blaster there. There's a few different versions of this blaster. This one is the smooth textured blaster. There is a rough textured blaster as well. So there's several different molds, but you can see how smooth and clean that is. And I've never looked, to be honest with you, at any of the other ones I have to see if I got smooth or rough textured. UKG is really good about noting whether it is a rough textured or a smooth textured. They usually don't mark it as smooth texture, but they do mark it as rough textured if it happens to be one, because I think those are a little bit more rare. But I think it looks like all the ones I have are just smooth textured. Yeah, they're all just smooth, I think. Smooth textured blasters. But the smooth or the rough can come with the Hong Kong figures, or the no COOs. It just depends. But I think every one of these is the smooth. So I do not have any rough textured blasters, but one sold fairly recently on eBay. That was a UKG graded item, and they did note it in the label that the blaster was a rough textured blaster. The other point of note is that these cloth capes, these accessories, again, are all from Hong Kong, and they were assembled in Spain. This is a dark stitch cape, cloth cape, and it's the rough textured cape, not the smooth like you see on some no COO figures. So it's a standard Hong Kong rough textured dark stitch cape. And I imagine there are probably some Poch Jawas or PBP Jawas that do have the smooth textured or a different stitch color, maybe black or one of those colors. I've got a black stitch right here. So, it just depends on what batches of accessories were sent to Spain for assembly at the time these were made. And so, what denotes, again, a Poch figure versus a PBP is that the company that was known as Poch merged with the company known as PBP, and for a short time thereafter, they still used the Poch label for a little while, but as the PBP logo started to catch on at the retail space, and people started to recognize and buy PBP figures, they moved over post-merger to just a PBP logo instead of Poch. So anything that's labeled Poch on a UKG item, for example, or AFA, or AFA and CAS. CAS does label items as Poch. AFA does not, to my knowledge. But if you see any UKG or CAS items that are labeled Poch, that means that they are true Poch figures before the merger with PBP. So this is one of the, if I had to guess, it's probably, other than maybe, some of the really, really high-end ones like the Toxic Limbs Bosk that is many, many thousands of dollars, and some of those others that have just really crazy paint differences versus the standard Hong Kong and later PBP figures. This Black Bandolier Jawa is definitely one that's a pretty high demand one. So, but if you ever see one loose and you're looking for proof that some hints that it's a true Poch Jawa and not a Hong Kong that's being passed off with being passed off as a Poch, just look for the bandolier color difference. The eyes are a big thing. That the face, being able to see all the mold differences, the right leg having that groove that we talked about, and then obviously the welding. If you see a smooth weld in that crotch area, it's definitely not a Poch. I can tell you that. Just literally, I don't know if I've ever seen a Spanish Poch Star Wars figure that did not have really poor welding. If they're out there, they're very rare. I personally have never seen them. They all seem to have kind of this gob of. I'm going to do another close up. See if we can get it. But if you can see that gob of gunk there between the legs, it's really difficult to show that. But that gives you a good idea of what to look for versus a much smoother kind of finish, more refined finish that you see with Hong Kong figures or other factories. So, at some point, I'll probably next year be getting some PBP figures and Poch figures that are loose and ungraded. And if and when I do, I'll be sure to kind of do a video on those so we can take a closer look at the welding on those, because it's really hard to show the welding, the poor sonic welding on a figure that's in the case. But I've seen a few that I really desire to get both on Facebook and on eBay. And when and if I do get one of those next year, we'll take a look at the sonic welding so you can kind of see just how poorly those Poch figures and PBP figures were kind of assembled. So anyway, this video is kind of long, but I thought we'd just take a closer look at this Jawa since I've had a couple of folks that have asked questions about it, since it's not a figure that you see every day. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.